here at Jackson Prep, and I mean, I'm walking in standing water, and earlier today the entire soccer field had about 4 inches of water just sitting over it. Now that water has receded. However, obviously you can't play on this field. Restaurants in the city of Jackson have been trying to adjust to this water crisis. Now, as the crisis becomes more severe because many places don't have water pressure, it's becoming more difficult for places to serve customers. Getting into the Mississippi State Fair has been fairly easy in the past, but now with more security and law enforcement than ever before on site, people are having to take a few extra steps to make sure that they can get in and enjoy themselves safely. It's meant to give the location to an owner. It's also meant to be clipped onto a keychain, put in a wallet, so you don't lose your precious items. However, it's also the perfect size to slip into your pocket without anyone knowing. Going into this game, we knew that we had a consistent Brandon offense going up against one of the toughest defense in the Metro. I want to show you just how much of this rain. Behind me, this is not a pool, this is not a stream, this is not a lake. This is actually someone's front yard, and I want to show you just how deep it is. Right now, I'm standing on the roadway with about 1 inch of my foot covered in the water. If I take a half step this way, I am 3 inches under the water. Any further, I could go under, honestly. We have a heavy police presence out here right off of Flowwood Drive. Just take a look at what's behind me. We have Mississippi Highway Patrol, a Pearl police car. We also have Flowwood Police and Rankin County deputies. Rankin County Sheriff's Department PIO Paul Hawley says the chase started in Pearl following a traffic stop, and it ended in an accident here in Flowwood. Maggie, a few years ago, we were seeing rates around 3%, but back in August of this year, we saw 5.5%, and each month that has increased all the way up to where we are today at 7.23%. And we haven't seen numbers like that since 2002. The game, they knew Hartfield's offense was strong, and they prepared their defense to shut down those receivers. That's right, Maggie. I'm at the Broad Street Baking Company just off of I-55 Frontage Road, where one man had his F-150 stolen in broad daylight. However, it's not just one man in one truck. It's happening all over the Jackson metro area. Kids are going through the lunch line, getting a little bit of everything. Take a look at what we got for lunch today. Chicken tenders, mac and cheese, some veggies, rolls, and fruit. And while this may look like plenty of food right now, this might be the only meal some kids get today. On Sunday night, residents in North Jackson put their garbage out on the curb, assuming it was going to be picked up on Monday. But now, over 24 hours later, and that garbage is still sitting here. Yazoo City Police Chief Kenneth Hampton says it's guns like these that they're pulling out of the hands of juveniles. And in response, the police department is holding these guns regardless of the owner. With Mississippi summers being so hot, it's crucial that parents always check the back seat to make sure their child isn't left in a hot car. It could cost a child's life. Out of thousands of applications, Mendenhall's Kayla Jones was chosen to be one of 80 people to continue their makeup career in New York. Where I am right now would have been completely underwater just a few months ago, and now because that water has been pushed back, you can actually see some of the erosion that has happened over the years. And when things like this happen in cities like Vicksburg and Greenville that heavily rely on some of the shipping along the Mississippi River,
Blue Shield has dropped UMMC from its list of covered medical facilities. Hundreds of patients are making tough choices regarding their well-being. 3 on your sides. Holly Emery speaks with one family who is impacted as they try to find out whether a 16-year-old daughter will receive care in the future.
On April 1st, thousands of people covered by Blue Cross Blue Shield and who are patients at the University of Mississippi Medical Center were forced to make an almost impossible decision to choose between their hospital or affordability. And 16-year-old Erin Wilson and her mother are currently trying to decide.
It's very nerve-wracking to think about having to move to new people and gain that trust and be like, okay, I trust you with my life, literally.
Erin was diagnosed with Graves' disease in 2018, a condition that causes her to both overproduce and underproduce thyroid hormones. It has caused numerous issues that UMMC specialists have helped her manage.
If anything were to go wrong, all of my doctors would be there and be like, okay, we need to do this, and they would all create a plan together. And just, I looked up to them because they always want to take care of me and other people and just do the best for everyone.
According to a statement with UMMC, certain patients with, quote, a specific ongoing medical condition or conditions based on federally determined qualifying criteria, end quote, will be covered until July. But Aaron's mother, Vernita Wilson, says her daughter isn't one of them. Instead, Wilson is having to choose whether to spend more money to remain with UMMC specialists or go to another hospital and start over.
When it comes to her care, I want the best, and I thought I had done all of the work, all of the research to get her into the network and into the group of doctors who would better serve her. But this, I don't know, because we're at the specialist levels. Specialists cost more.
Wilson says the lack of warning before insurance renewals were due is the most frustrating because it puts many in a difficult position.
Blue Cross did send me an email to say back in November, your premium will go up. Why not say we're considering an abandonment of our contract with UMMC? Or vice versa. It was done, and we're left to deal with their decision.
Low Mississippi River levels are causing panic among cities and ports along the river, with many already seeing the negative impacts. 3 on Your Side's Holly Emery joins us live now from Vicksburg with more on this situation. Holly.
Maggie, where I am right now would have been completely underwater just a few months ago. And now, because that water has been pushed back, you can actually see some of the erosion that has happened over the years. And when things like this happen in cities like Vicksburg and Greenville, that heavily rely on some of the shipping along the Mississippi River, traffic in the river has to decrease. And as a result, officials say it will impact the state and nation's economies.
Nearly 5 million tons of goods are shipped on the Mississippi River each year, but when river levels drop well below average, only so much can move up and downstream.
It's definitely created navigational hazards along the marine transportation system. Despite the continuous dredging and the remarking of the channel, there are times where we do have to impose, periodic waterway restrictions like tow size and draft restrictions.
According to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the average water level this time of year in Greenville is 17.8 feet. Tuesday, that number was 7.38 feet, something Mayor Eric Simmons has noticed.
The slow movement of barge freight has substantially increased transportation costs. What you're doing is you're putting and loading half-full barges due to low river levels.
As a result, the amount of goods moving up the river, as well as being sold and put into stores, is decreasing and could impact not only the state's economy, but the nation's.
The Mississippi River Basin manufactures or grows over 90% of American exports. Agriculture exports are a crucial part of that. 60% of our ag exports move right down the Mississippi River.
With about 38% of Greenville's population living below the poverty line, Mayor Simmons says little revenue in his city could cause his citizens to struggle even more.
If they can't get barges up and down the river, you're going to begin to see a global food shortage or high costs of food to continue to go up.
In 2012, we had price spikes for meat and dairy upwards of $3. We hope we don't see that for this drought, but it's what we're monitoring very closely. The average citizen is definitely going to feel the effects.
Going forward, those experts you just heard from, as well as our first alert meteorologists, agree that it could take several months before the river is fully functioning again. And it won't just be from rain in the south. It's going to take a lot of snow melt up in the north as well to make sure that this river goes all the way back up there again. Live in Vicksburg, Holly Emery, 3 on Your Side.
Oregon and Mississippi for medicine that contains pseudoephedrine. However, some county sheriffs in the state believe crime scene tape will replace that red tape now. 3 on Your Side's Holly Emery hears from law enforcement on both sides of the change.
Pseudoephedrine, the product that folks with allergies have been wanting to get their hands on in Mississippi for over a decade. But sick people weren't the only ones who wanted the products.
With the passage of the law that placed ephedrine and pseudoephedrine on prescription only, we went from several labs a week to maybe one a year.
With pseudoephedrine being the primary ingredient for meth, county sheriffs are worried they will see an increase in meth labs. Lowndes County Sheriff Eddie Hawkins says he's already seen one in the first 5 days.
Yesterday morning, one of our deputies was patrolling and found a backpack that contained the remnants of a meth lab here. That's the first one that we've seen in Lowndes County in approximately 10 years since the law went into effect.
According to Director Colonel Stephen Maxwell with the Mississippi Bureau of Narcotics, legislators predicted a minor increase in meth labs, but not as many as they saw in the early 2000s.
The legislature looked at the data, and the data indicates that over the course of the past 2 decades, there's been an 80% decrease in our country clandestine methamphetamine lab incidents reported.
But both Sheriff Hawkins and Pace say local law enforcement agencies aren't so sure about that.
The Sheriff's Association was against repealing this law because we know the cost effects it's going to have on our local level.
I certainly don't want to go back to where we were in the early 2000s where we were working multiple meth labs.
Public Safety Commissioner Sean Tyndall says he is, quote, confident that Mississippi can provide proper oversight and regulation, end quote, and Director Maxwell agrees.
I think we have figured it out. We've got the other 99% of us who might benefit from having easier access to acquiring this medication.
In Jackson, Holly Emery, 3 on your side.